Congresswoman, with all due respect, I am very much focused on doing what's right for these students. And the memos to which you're referring preceded me, and they may have been relevant to conversation about how we proceeded with policy, but administrations changed and policies change.
We have all seen this scene before, the Ilhan Omar routine, where she steps into a committee room, puts on an outraged expression, and starts attacking anyone who understands how a massive federal department actually works today. The focus is on her interrogation of former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. The mainstream media loves to frame this as a roasting and paint Ilhan Omar as some kind of hero for students, but look at the body language. This is not about finding solutions, this is a performance. Designed for short viral clips, she jumps from one weak allegation to another, trying to grandstand, trying to bully, and pretending she is the only one in the room who cares. It comes off as patronizing, provocative, and exhausting. Pay attention to who is speaking with facts and who is just trying to create a scene, and let's dive in.
Thank you, Chairman. Secretary DeVos, thank you so much for being here and giving us the opportunity to have this conversation with you. I am curious if you're familiar with the Minnesota School of Business and Global University.
I'm not familiar with that specific school.
Okay. Do you know that they were found to be engaged in consumer fraud?
If they were, I'm assuming there are some borrower defense claims pending for them.
Okay. Memo after memo, the Education Department career staff sent you memos that indicate that these students deserve nothing less than full relief. I know that you've said you haven't read these memos yet, but reports have come out, and I would have expected that you would take the time to read them before appearing before us today. I ask for unanimous consent to enter these 3 memos into the record.
Without objection.
I feel like you should be ashamed of the fact that you don't have answers to these memos, that you haven't looked at these memos, that you haven't taken the responsibility that you have as a leader to be prepared to give us a response. And I think the public should be ashamed that they have a Secretary of Education that's not putting the interests of students before the interests of the wealthy that are benefiting from defrauding these students. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, if I may respond.
Thank you. The gentlelady's time has expired. Secretary can respond.
Congresswoman, with all due respect, I am very much focused on doing what's right for these students. And the memos to which you're referring preceded me, and they may have been relevant to conversation about how we proceeded with policy, but administrations changed and policies change.
They are precise.
Thank you. The gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Omar.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Secretary, countless news sources have reported on the conflict of interest that run rampant through your top aides, especially those advising you on higher ed and loan servicing. When responding to questions about these conflicts, you have failed to adequately convince Congress and the American people that these conflicts do not interfere with the billions of taxpayer dollars flowing from education to corporate interests. Today, I would like to better understand your decisions for selecting aides and ensuring that their conflicts do not harm taxpayers. Last May, 4 of my colleagues on this committee sent your general counsel a request for information about conflict of interest surrounding your $2 billion next-gen loan servicing solicitation. Given that this solicitation is given, I would like some information about the team that's leading it. Does Dr. A. Wade Johnson, is he the one that's spearheading this solicitation?
Dr. Johnson is head of the Next Gen Initiative.
All right. According to New York Times investigation, Dr. Johnson was the founder and chief executive of a private student loan company, Reunion Student Loan Financing Corporation, before assuming his official role with the department. Is that correct?
That probably is correct.
Yes, it is.
Let me just interject.
I would like to continue.
And I would like to make clear that
we'll give you some time. I will get to it. Thank you so much. Dr. Johnson was also the executive at the two financial services companies, First Data Corporation and TSYS. Additionally, Dr. Johnson was hired at least one other TSYS veteran, Mr. Patrick Fox. Have any of Dr. Johnson's previous employers bid on elements of next-gen solicitation?
Congresswoman, all of my staff, all of my team at the Department of Education and Federal Student Aid has gone through their ethics process, has taken and takes their ethics obligations very seriously. We don't have conflicts, and we will not be conflicted. We have continued to have a robust screening process, and can stand and be, very resolute about that.
So given that there is about $2 billion per year in taxpayer dollars flowing through this program, will you commit to releasing communication between the procurement team and any of Dr. Johnson's former employees?
So all of the procurement is walled off from the rest.
That would just be yes or no. Would you be committed to releasing any communication between Dr. Johnson and his employees?
Not to releasing internal communication, but the procurement team is walled off from the rest of the team, and the procurement process is very definitely prescribed as to how it has to happen.
That has not clearly answered my question. The federal acquisition regulations have a section on conflict of interest. It states, the general rule is to avoid strictly any conflict of interest or even the appearance of conflict of interest in government contract relations. While many federal laws and regulations place restrictions on actions of government personnel, their official conduct must, in addition, be such that they would not have no reluctance to make a full public disclosure of their actions. You seem to have reluctance to make a full public disclosure of the actions of the head of the department's largest single procurement team, despite there being obvious appearance of conflict of interest. How is your denial to release communication in line with extremely high conflict of interest standards that's required by federal law?
The individual you have referred to is not part of the acquisition or procurement team.
Okay. But we need the communication that is happening between the procurement team and the employers of Dr. Johnson.
That process is walled off from any other process.
What you saw had a clear pattern, and it is important to separate what actually happened from the story Ilhan Omar wants to sell. She brought up specific schools in Minnesota and acted shocked that the Secretary of Education does not have every local court case memorized. Betsy DeVos runs a department with a massive budget and thousands of employees and relies on teams for local details. This was a classic gotcha question that has nothing to do with federal policy. Then Ilhan Omar used the familiar corporate villain angle, trying to frame Betsy DeVos as someone who is against students. In reality, Betsy DeVos has spent decades supporting school choice and student empowerment. Next, Ilhan Omar turned her attention to Dr. Wayne Johnson, criticizing his private sector background, as if experience were a crime. This shows the deeper divide. Ilhan Omar treats private sector success as a conflict of interest, while Betsy DeVos values real-world experience in loan servicing. When Ilhan Omar demanded internal communications, Betsy DeVos explained that the procurement team is legally walled off to prevent conflicts. That process exists specifically to stop the kind of wrongdoing being implied, but the appearance of conflict makes better headlines than the truth. The memo argument shows the same pattern. Ilhan Omar treats career staff opinions as final authority. Betsy DeVos made the simple point that administrations change and policy changes with them, which is how democracy works. Betsy DeVos remained professional and calm, while Ilhan Omar pushed a narrative built for viral moments. One came to discuss law and policy, the other came for a camera-ready confrontation. Tell me what you think. Is Ilhan Omar performing for the cameras, or is this fair criticism? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe if you are tired of the political theater.